Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm going to tell you about wooden keycaps using hand tools. When I built my keyboard a few months ago, I investigated the possibility to create keycaps out of wood scraps and miserably failed due to the precision required for the MX mounts. I went with ABS keycaps at that time but still wanted to get wooden ones. The main reasons to try to build such keycaps was to be able to customize them at will, but let's face it, I also wanted to take the challenge. There are videos on the web showing wooden keycaps builds, but those require to have a CNC, which most hobbyists like me don't have. So here you will get the instructions without CNC, but also with only hand tools, which makes wooden keycaps possible for almost everybody at a really low price. Now supplies, these are the supplies which are used for this project. Now these are some tools which are used for this project: 4 mm and 10 mm chisels, clamps, saw, screwdriver, sandpaper from 80 to 320 grit, drill with 5 mm bits and countersink bit, utility knife. Step 1: building the drawing jig. The first thing we will do is drawing the bottom of the key, its outer and inner sides. Drawing squares or rectangles seems an easy enough task to not build a jig for that, but to ensure precision and reliability as well as reducing the time to produce a key. The idea is to create two templates, one for the inside of the key and one for the outside. I am having both on the same piece of paper for each key size. I will show for a 1U key, but the whole idea is the same for the wider ones. Do not erase the center lines. They will be used as guides to place the jigs later on. Step 2: building the shape jig profiles. The idea of this jig is to help reliably reproducing the same shape of the outer sides of the each key. I created DSA keys and thus just needed one jig like this since all sides are alike. If building keys for more complex profiles like OEM or SA, you will have to create several like this one. First, create the profile guides on a 25 mm wide stick at least the height of the keycaps. Draw the profile of the key to produce. Here I drew it quickly based on a 60 angle, but ideally draw the profile on CAD software, print it twice and glue them on each side. Using a 10 mm chisel, cut the shape of the end of the stick along the template's lines. Step 3: building the shape jib baseboard. Now prepare the base of the jig where the profile guides will be attached. On the baseboard, draw a line that is perpendicular to the work edge to fit one of the profile guide. Drill two 5 mm holes with countersinks under the board. Draw a line at 80 mm from the first one to mark the position of the other profile guide. For 1U keys, you can also draw other lines for the other sides. Here I draw one for 2U keys to draw lines parallel to the work edge for the script. Step 4: building the shape jig blockers. To prevent the keycap from moving between the profiles of the jig, you need a blocker piece, or rather one blocker piece for each key size you plan to build. All that is needed is to cut them at the keycap width: 18 mm for 1U, 36 mm for 2U, etc. Just mind that keycaps are not square, so the 18 mm blocker will need to have multiple holes unless you build so many sizes that you want a slot to adjust the position. Drill the hole according to one drilled between the profiles in the baseboard. Step 5: digging the inside. It is now time to start on the keycaps. This build method uses the bottom of the key as reference. Draw the center lines of the keycap and use them to align the paper jigs, and draw the inner and outer square of the key. Remember that the pencil thickness will have an influence. Using the 4 mm chisel, gently cut along the guide by starting with middle. The corners are done once the two adjacent sides middle are cut. The hole to dig needs to be 6.5 mm deep. Proceed with four sides of the square. Step 6: cutting the key. Mark the outer lines using a white chisel or a marking knife. Cut a small bevel on the outside of the key to guide the saw. Saw along the four lines to extract the primitive keycap. Step 7. Shaping the outside. Place the keycap in the shaping jig as shown in the picture. Sand the edge using 80 grit sandpaper until you reach the template guide edge. Sand with finer grains until smooth. Rotate the key in the guide and sand again until all four sides and are ready. Step 8. Adding the mount. Test that the 3D printed mount fits in the keycap and align the cross with the edges. If needed, adjust the keycap with the 4 mm chisel or sand the keycap edges. Also dry test the mount on a key switch to ensure it is fixed nicely. I had to adjust the insides of the mount using a utility knife for it to fit. Once satisfied, glue the mount with the keycap using CA glue. Step 9. Finish. You have plenty of options for the finish. For my first attempt shown on the picture, I transferred a layer printed logo using polyurethane based varnish. This technique is widely described on the web. Before applying any water based finish, wet the keycap, let it dry and sand away the fibers that came out using a fine grit. You may have to repeat this process several times. It took me about 3 hours to build the keycap. Using this process, count how much time you need for your whole keyboard.